that I don't care if it's the Operation Fast and Furious, Benghazi, corruption, stimulus, waste, fraud, abuse, broken promises, unfulfilled promises, you name it, lies, outright lies told about Mitt Romney and Republicans and conservatives by Obama and those on his campaign, et cetera, et cetera. None of it gets called out. Look at the case of Benghazi. We lost the first ambassador in over 30 years. We lost Ty Woods. We lost 2 Navy SEALs. We lost Sean Smith, who was a State Department computer expert. 4 Americans. And all we got for months and months and months were lies, distortions, cover-ups. They screwed up before. They didn't give the security that was requested. President goes to bed, didn't even check in with Leon Panetta after he had found out that the embassy was under attack and we didn't know where our ambassador was. Just goes to sleep. And then afterwards, a false narrative about, oh, this is related to a YouTube video. It turns out none of that is true. And it also now appears that the attack was precipitated by an American attack on some of these extremists. We were lied to. Anyway, one of those people that were killed, one of the 4, was Sean Smith. He died in Benghazi on 9/11/2012, and his mother, Pat Smith, is with us. We talked to Ty Woods' father and family. Pat, first thing I want to say to you is I can't imagine the pain you have been through, and please know that there are many of us that have you in our prayers and our deepest, deepest sympathy for your loss.
Thank you.
Tell us about your son.
Well, he was not one of those macho people, but he was a very brave kid. And yes, he was my kid. And he was a computer guy. And he did tell them ahead of time. He typed it in his little typewriter over there that they were going to be attacked. Please, they needed more security. And they were ignored. And I don't appreciate everybody going to bed and going to sleep and not taking care of the guys that they put in harm's way, one of them being my son.
Do you know, Mrs. Smith, how many times that he warned the State Department, and do you know who he warned?
I don't know exactly who it is because it was not they didn't let me know that. My son himself told me that he warned them. He typed it into me. He says, I told him. He says, I sent messages. He says, but that was it.
Wow.
And he was on the teletype or whatever it is. I don't know what they use over there, phone or what. But he was on there telling them just before it happened, and that the guy out there was taking pictures of the place. He was telling them that. He was a communications guy, and he was communicating that.
So he was doing their job, and all of these requests. Now, initially, they even cut back the number of people that they provided for security, which was insane.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Now,
they don't tell me much. You know, they want me to shut up.
Have they told? How do you know that?
I was told, and I really would rather not say by who. I can if you need it. But I was told that I'm causing a lot of problems and to shut up and get off of the Fox radio show. And it was even on some Facebook pages that I'm causing problems.
Are these government people saying this?
No.
So, in other words, people out there that hear you and they're trying to intimidate you and get you to be silent even though you lost your son.
I guess that might be one way of saying it, yes. And I told him I will not shut up until I find out what really happened. And somebody's got to admit to this, or it's going to go on forever. Somebody's got to.
When the President and the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense, when they had that ceremony and the caskets of these 4 brave Americans were brought back, you were there, weren't you?
I certainly was. I was sitting right next to Colin Powell's wife.
Yeah. Tell me about your interaction with the President, the Secretary of State, Defense.
They're not going to like it. The President, I cried on his shoulder, and I was crying there, and he's patting me on the back and looking around to who he's going to talk to next, so I didn't feel any comfort there. Hillary, I cried on her shoulder also, but she paid a little attention to me, then walked off. Panetta took my face in his hands telling me, I asked him, please let me know what happened. I've got to know. And he took my face in his hands and he said, trust me, I will get back to you. I will let you know. And guess how much I've heard from him since?
Nothing.
You got it.
What did you think when you heard Panetta testify that he told Obama, he happened to be in the White House at the time when he reported to the president that this compound, this embassy, this annex was under attack, and that he never spoke to the president after that, not once that night?
I didn't hear that till well after the fact.
Doesn't that, I mean, if I was you, I don't know, my anger.
They did not care. They did not care. I wasn't. My son was a political pawn that they needed at the time, they thought, because they weren't doing their job. And so they sacrificed him and the ambassador and those two wonderful SEALs. They stayed there for hours afterwards, alive.
And they said, well, the people that got out, it's because those SEALs who were told to stand down went to fight anyway. I mean that's a pretty amazing story of courage. And 8 hours later, they died. There's so many aspects of this, Mrs. Smith, that just frustrate me, and I've been trying to get answers like you have been. People that were eyewitnesses to this, none of them have spoken to the media. Not one.
They won't. They're just told to sit down and shut up, so to speak, and that's their job. And probably this might be what they should do. I don't know.
No, I think you have a right to know what happened, and I don't like the fact that why did they deny your son's direct request for security before? Why wasn't the president more engaged, and why didn't they send troops who were an hour and a half away that could have been there? Why did they lie about it afterwards? I'd like to know the answer to all those questions.
I was told that the troops were starting out to help. Somebody went against orders, and that they were going to help, and then they were specifically told to stand down. And so they couldn't even come to help. They were specifically told, stand down, do not help. I don't know how good that is, but I've heard that from a couple sources that probably should know.
Can I ask you this question? Now, your son apparently is going to be honored with the Thomas Jefferson Star of Foreign Service sometime in May.
That's correct, May 3rd.
And you have not been contacted by the government? You've not been invited to attend the ceremony?
I got an invitation through my daughter-in-law. She said that I had to go through her for everything, so that's what I was doing. And I did get that invitation, and then I was told just recently that the government is going to pay for her and the two kids to come in from the Netherlands, where they are. They're going to pay for this and their expenses. But, oh, by the way, you're not invited, type of thing. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm being facetious. They're not going to be able to cover the cost of anybody else. If anybody wants to come to the ceremony, that they have to pay their own way.
Wow. Now, we can allocate all this money, I guess, for the Obama's vacations and Justin Timberlake and so on and so forth and all the parties. And we have money for the president to play golf with Tiger, but we don't have money to bring in the mother of a slain hero from the Benghazi tragedy, which they screwed up because they didn't listen to your son. Let me ask you, is this a problem for you financially? Is it expensive?
All the money I get is on Social Security. That's it. Would
you like to go to the ceremony honoring your son?
Oh, yes, I would.
Well, I'd be glad to pay for it. I'll pay for your plane. I'll pay for your hotel. I'll pay for any transportation and food you need while you're there. How's that?
Thank you.
Would you like that?
And for my companion, too, because I can't...
Yeah. No, I understand. You can bring whoever you want.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I'm very, very sorry, and we'll make all the arrangements for you. And I think you have a right to be there, and I know your son would probably want you there.
Well, he always told me, always trust a guy with the name of Sean.
Is that what he said? Well, you named him the right way. Did he spell it the right way? S-E-A-N?
That's it.
Yeah. How old was your son?
He was 34 when he died.
Oh, boy.
I kept him for the first 17 years of his life, and then he went into the Air Force, and they got him the second 17 years. Mm-hmm. And then they screwed up.
Yep. Wow. Now, I understand that his wife apparently has taken a little different take on all of this than you have. Do you think that's why she got invited and that you didn't? Has there been any falling out with you and your daughter-in-law?
I don't know her very well. The only time I met her was one time they came here to San Diego. Another time I went to visit them in Africa when he was stationed in South Africa. Another time I went to visit him in Montreal when he was stationed there. That's the only time I've ever known her. She seems like a wonderful person, but my contacts with her, I don't know.
Well, that's hard because your son and his wife from the Netherlands had 2 children, and those are your grandchildren, and I'm sure you'd like to see them occasionally.
Well, they were scheduled to come here to San Diego in the next go-round. I guess they get stationed for 2 years at a time.
Yeah. Do you know who's going to be at this Thomas Jefferson Star for Foreign Service, this award that your son is getting? Do you know which political figures will be there?
I don't know. Whoever wants to step in the limelight at the time and take credit.
Boy, you know.
I'm very bitter. I am very bitter. I am so disappointed in my government for the way they're playing this. What they're playing is politics. And I don't want to know everything that was going on over there. I know it was secret. I know they were doing things that I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, he was stationed in The Hague, and that's where he was. But you have a right to know the truth, and you have a right. If your son told you, as he did, and he knew that there was an attack coming, and he warned them, and they did nothing. That means that your son's death could have been prevented. Yes.
And we have an obligation to every single person that is serving this country that this never happened again. It should never have happened to your son or Ty Woods.
Well, that's the reason I keep opening up my mouth about it. I want somebody to admit that they did it so that it won't happen again, so that there's safety there. So my God, those guys go out there and they risk their lives, and I know they're happy to do it, and I know they do it, and they know that there's problems of going. Everybody told me, well, he knew what could happen. Well, I'm sure he could have too.
But that doesn't take away the culpability and the blame of the government for not handling this properly. Look, you know, Mrs. Smith, this is frustrating. I've tried to cover this, and it's very frustrating to me.
I know. You won't find the answer. I'm told it's too high up.
Well, because they didn't do right by the people in that embassy. And they didn't do right the night that they were under fire. And they didn't do right in the aftermath of it by lying and covering up. And that to me is, you know, if they get away with it this time, they'll never stop doing it because they know they can get away with it. And innocent people will die needlessly. And you know, I'm glad you're speaking up, and I'm sure this is very painful for you to bring it up and to be reminded of it on a regular basis. But it wasn't that long ago, and I'm
afraid that if I speak too much of it, that I won't get to see my grandkids anymore.
Yeah, well,
It has to be said now. Now it has to.
Well, I'm going to put you on hold. First of all, it's an honor to talk to you and meet you. I've never spoken to you before, number one. Number two, I'm proud. I know you're proud of your son getting this award.
My only child.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's not. Parents should never have to bury their kids.
Take care of me when I get old.
Well, we're gonna try and ease a little of the pain. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set up. We'll get you the plane tickets for you and your companion. We'll get you a nice hotel. I assume this is in Washington, right?
I haven't gotten the information.
Okay. When you get the information, we'll hook it all up for you. We'll get you a nice hotel. I'll get a car to drive you around, and I'll get you the plane tickets there and back. Okay?
Appreciate that, sir.
All right. Now, when you're in the hotel, I want you to order like a big, expensive steak dinner on me. Okay?
Sure, I'll do that.
All right. I'm glad.
I have lobster on the side.
Lobster on the side and a big bottle of wine.
There you go.
All right. Well, God bless you. I'm very sorry for your loss, ma'am, and I really mean that.
Thank you very much.
All right.